even
No,
though you're
I
not
think,
here, Rich.
Rich makes a good point, because this is common recruiter behavior on both sides. I've seen it on agency, I've seen it on corporate as well. The box checker recruiter or the customer service recruiter that's just doing whatever the manager wants. Oh, you want a cheeseburger, no lettuce? Okay, well, you really need chicken, but who am I to say that? Well, I'll say it. That's the difference between recruiters like me and Rich and Mike and probably many others and the box checking recruiters. So yeah, of course they exist, but they exist in agency too.
Michael G. Cox was an internal recruiter for many years. I noticed he's quiet. He's not defending the role.
There's nothing to defend, man. You've got
Rich
a
just
lot
said
of
people like you are losers. Okay.
yes, and many are. And so here's the thing. I think the best value that I ever provided the VPs of sales, because I was doing sales recruiting when I was in the inside, is telling them when they were wrong, or just
Yeah.
not just nodding and saying, okay, I'll find one of those, or when they would push back and say that candidate doesn't work, I'm not interested, because they would say some. I'm trying not to curse. They would say a lot of really stupid things. Like
Rich curses for all of us, so you can feel free. Okay.
They would say a lot of stupid things like, just didn't feel like that was the right candidate. Or that person, she ain't got it in her. Not really a natural born seller.
Okay, let me ask a question then.
The worst one was when they would say something like, you know what I'm looking for? I'm looking for another Amy. If we could find another Amy, just find another one of those. That'd be great. You know, that person really reminds me of Michael. I was like, what does that mean, dude? So have just pushing back kindly in most cases, unkindly in others, really helped people to realize what they want sometimes. And actually being able to measure those things rather than saying, I'm looking for an A player. You know, can you find me an A player? Like, man, shut up.
I'll
You
know
can't
it when
even
I see
afford
it.
an A player. Get out of here.
Okay, I want some real stories now. You said a couple of things. Okay, you
I
said
said a lot of things.
Yeah, but I forget. If I don't interrupt, I forget.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, well, tell me a story. Okay, you said sometimes kindly and sometimes unkindly you press back. And Amy was nodding her head like this. Yeah, okay. So I want to hear some stories where you actually turned one of these idiots around. Okay. Hey, everybody, they don't talk like that. They don't call hiring managers idiots. I do. Okay, because I'm a little more honest. Those people that they describe are foolish. And the thing is, they're describing them often on recruiting discussion groups, and they might say, hey, you know, I discussed it over there in private, not here on YouTube with the recruiting animal. Okay, so I'm saying that those hiring managers are foolish. That's an understated word. Michael G. Cox said, oh yeah, well, look at all these stories about what they want, but he didn't say this is what I did and this is what happened. And that's what I'm asking you now, Michael G. Cox. You should know how to interview.
Okay, so it typically goes back to, and when they said some of these things that were really stupid, I would take them back to the initial intake. So hold up, I'm not going to go look for, because I actually got this. I'm looking for a Michael Jordan, or I'm looking for that real A player. And I would say, okay, great. How do you know when you see that person that that's actually an A player that you're looking for? And what we have to do is actually define those things. And don't just tell me that you're looking for an A player. Tell me what that person is actually doing that makes that person what you call an A player. And typically the first answer that I get is, well, they hit quota. Okay, so if I find you somebody that has hit quota in the past 3 years, that's what you're going to call an A player. So that's what I have to go look for. And so when you start painting them into a corner to define what success actually looks like, is when we actually start developing what the search entails. And rather than just saying, go find me a closer. Yeah, go find. And it's stupid because, first of all, closers, somehow, like since Glenn Ross, we got obsessed with closing. And closing sucks. People that call themselves closers also call themselves things like rainmakers or just heavy hitters. All of this crap doesn't mean anything. What I'm really looking for is openers, people that can actually open conversations and have intelligent conversations with prospects. That is much more valuable
Michael
to
G.
an
Cox,
organization.
I'm finding it interesting, but I want to give Amy a chance because this is what I consider her famous for, pressing back against these people. But you gave us, okay, I have to corner this guy. Most people don't like to be cornered. You didn't say,
No.
Yeah, and I actually sold him on being reasonable, and he was happy he had the conversation with me after instead of resentful. Okay, and he changed.
No, they're still.
You never told me one story like that. Am I right, Sasha? He's letting us down.
The overwhelming majority
Steve Levy,
of these
you
people
can come
were not
on the
happy
show
to
if you
have
want
the
to show your
conversation
face.
and were
Okay,
resentful.
you're welcome to.
Did you hear me?
Steve is here to see you. Okay, Steve came to see you, Amy, and I'm not letting you say
He's
a
my
word.
buddy. It's okay. I'm just enjoying the
Steve doesn't have to
camaraderie.
come. Nobody has to show their face here, but you're welcome. That's all I wanted to say. Okay.
Hey, Animal, just to close that out, the overwhelming majority of the people that I had these pushback conversations with were not happy at the end. They weren't. They were still resentful of having the conversation. It wasn't something they enjoyed.
So how can you work with someone like that? Let's switch to Amy, the guest.
Because I can't
okay?
fire them. They're internal. I can't.
No, but how can you work with them if they have unreasonable, vague things like I want someone like Mike or I want someone like Amy? Well, what does that mean? Let's put it into.
I've flat out told people that if we're not going to come to an agreement on how we're going to work together, then I will happily remove myself from the process and give you the name to your local staffing agency. You can go explain to your boss why you need budget to recruit because you will not listen to me, the recruiting expert. It's not, I don't care. I got lots of other stuff to do. So we can either figure out a way to work together or not. And then you get to go have that conversation with the budget office.
Yep. But also you have to have the buy-in from your senior level individuals.
Exactly.
I think before you have that conversation, Amy, because I didn't get to do all that pushback stuff until I had a sit down conversation with the president of the organization to say, okay, so this is what you're looking for. This is what you need in these roles. And we'd hammer all of that stuff out. And then I have the ammunition to go back and say, dude, that one hiring manager is not getting on board with this stuff. Yep. I always say in every search, you have multiple clients. You have the direct hiring manager, maybe you have the head of sales, and then you have the president of the organization. And each one of them is looking for like variations. And if the hiring manager isn't on board and is stuck with these vague terms of what they're looking for, then they need to be corrected, but you need to have the backup of the other individuals.
How do you get to go behind
you
the
have
back?
To start at the top.
Amy never talks
about
going to the top.
Yes, I do. I always start at the top. I always start
my impression
high level.
Of you. You go in there and you just slap around this idiot
and
say, look, and you do a Rich Rosen. Steve, we'll bring you in a second, okay? You do a Rich Rosen. You say, okay, fine. You want it? You work on it yourself. I'm not in on this, okay? I got other stuff to do. I'm
just saying you have options. You're a hiring manager. You're the one tasked with building your team. I'm here to partner with you. See, I don't use the word support. That's another difference.
Oh,
I don't support anyone.
That's a weak
I'm
word.
not a recruiting admin. I partner with you. So I have a relationship with your VP, director, whatever person. Here's our staffing plan for the year or whatever. Here's where you fit into it. Let's talk how we're going to solve your specific problems at this level. But it's all focused on the big problem up top based on the workforce plan or the staffing strategy or whatever that you're getting from leadership. It starts there. I'm a partner to all of the people up and down that chain, regardless of title.
Okay, I want to bring in Steve. Okay, Gal Gadot, you can come in at any time, but you're a junior person. You should be drinking this stuff in. But I want you guys the other two, to tell me how you go behind the back of your hiring manager and snitch to his or her boss, Steve Levy.
Oh, no, I take them with me. Come on, let's go have a conversation with your boss. We're in this together, babe.
And I
There's
do
no behind the back.
Yeah, I do the same thing. If the organization is mature enough, you have data. And, if you collected data, first step, most of your data is probably crap historically.
What data are you talking about? Okay.
We're talking everything, whatever variables are part of your recruiting process. It could be number of people sourced. It could be the time that it took you to, from that first call to the hiring manager about their new job. How long does it take for them to set up a meeting so you can talk about the role? The funnel metrics, location metrics, turn down metrics, whatever it is.
Okay.
So you have a picture.
I can give you a story about that at Google.
Go ahead.
Go do
Go
that,
ahead.
Lenny. That's a good story.
So I was recruiting engineering managers for YouTube, and we felt very busy. I had like a bunch of sourcers that were working with me on this business, and it felt like we were really busy and lots of resumes being submitted, but we didn't have a ton of interview activity, which is really confusing to me. So I ran some numbers and I pulled the data like Steve's talking about, and found out that our resume submittals would expire after 7 calendar days. So if a hiring manager logged into their queue, any resumes that had been submitted 7 days or longer disappeared. They're still in the ATS, the system or whatever, but they're no longer visible on the hiring manager's dashboard. 50% were expiring before managers would go look at them. And my sourcers just kept throwing resumes at them. And I said, we're not doing this anymore. Yeah. Until we have an SLA, until we define, you're going to have a response from me in 24, 48
SLA
hours,
is
whatever
service
the right
level
number
agreement.
is,
There's juniors here.
Right.
Service level agreement.
Okay, well, that's,
that's
recruiting.
Their problem.
101.
Hold on a second. Wait a second. No, this is so confrontational. The only thing that Amy said is
confrontational.
No, it sure sounds like it to me. Although you said, "Look, I'm your partner. Don't kick me around. I'm not your secretary." Okay.
Here's how the conversation went. I said, hey, I've looked at the historical data over the last 3 months. 50% of the resumes that we've put in front of you have not been viewed. We have a 7-day window for you to go in and review those resumes. If you're not able to meet that time frame, who would you like to nominate as your proxy on your team? Oh, well, I don't have anyone else to review the resumes and I'm too busy. Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that recruiting is not a priority for you right now. We're going to go ahead and tell the VP, Scott, that you don't have time to do this, and we'll get back to you when you either make time or nominate a proxy.
And this is why John never argues with his wife, because he will lose every time.
Who's John? Oh, John Miller. Okay.
Michael,
yeah, I bet you're right. Okay,
Michael, going with the same, going with the same data about about diversity, about level, about skill sets, and all.
But Steve, what I want to hear is all three of you said, "Hey, although Michael G Cox didn't say, Michael G Cox said he snitches, but he didn't say he actually takes the drags the hiring manager into a meeting with his boss."
I snitch, but I tell him I'm going to snitch.
Tell me how you tell him he's going to snitch, and you still have to work with these people, okay?
It's informed snitching. Look, here's what we do is a good recruiter, we don't even call ourselves recruiters, we're talent advisors, to use a Vlastelica word. But a talent advisor...
That sounds more expensive, I like that.
It really is.
Yeah,
we
can charge more.
Salary expectations. So you do that. But yeah, I mean, it's early on, you have to establish yourself as someone who knows what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah.
You have to build credibility.
Everyone hears me. I'm pretty good from a technical point of view. And so, before I, go into that initial meeting with the manager about their roles, I know what they need. I already know what their initiatives are. I'm logged into the JIRA boards. I know what epics are falling behind. I know this stuff. And if I don't know it, I teach myself. I learn. Yeah, and I will use back channels all the time when someone is pissing me off and they're getting in my way of doing the job, or my team doing their job.
Am I asking the wrong question? I want to hear a story about when you guys confronted a hiring manager and said, "Hey, Betty, hey, Billy, we're going to see Steve about this because you don't have your head on your shoulders properly, and I want some help putting it there." Okay, Michael G. Cox, go ahead.
All right, so I was walking down the hall, my mistake, and I got pulled into a meeting by the president of our organization. And he just pulls me in. He says, "Hey, come on in here. I've got all the VPs of sales here and from all these different regions. Explain how you're going to do sales recruiting this year." All right, let's do this. So I start having conversations explaining, we've already decided, Brad and I have already decided, these are what we're going to focus on for this position. These are the minimums or what we're going after, qualifying, all of that stuff, qualifications, things like that. And then one of the VPs of sales raises his hand and says, "Well, based on that, you would totally ignore me. Because when I started here, I didn't have that experience. I was just coming out of baseball." And his big thing was, he was always interested in hiring athletes because he felt that there was a correlation between the
Affinity
ability
bias.
to throw a ball and the ability to sell.
Mhm.
And I said, "Correct. I would not speak with you. I cannot look under every rock. So we're going to set these minimums, and we're going to focus on these three main attributes, if you will: experience levels, education levels, things
let
like
me
that."
stop you for a second. If there's
And
something
then
wrong
he
with-
pushes back and he says, I don't like this because you're not going to look at athletes. So that's not something that directly correlates with success as we've seen it.
Okay,
Is
tell
that
me,
is that good enough pushback?
no, that
example?
wasn't good
No?
enough. That was in a
Dang it.
meeting, like with a general thing. You just got hauled in there, like the guy
Yes.
snapped his fingers, like you had a puppy. You had to come in there, okay? But
I
hold
did.
on, I'm talking about when you're
All
working
right, I got
directly.
one.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
got one.
Yeah.
All right. So this happened in Microsoft. I was in a meeting with a VP and probably 20 of his directs, all, directors and senior managers, hiring data scientists, software engineers, and program managers. And I'm in this meeting to report on recruiting, and here's the latest, and here's what we've hired so far this year, whatever. And they drop a bomb on me and say, "We're not seeing enough resumes. I don't know what you and your team are doing, but there's not enough resumes. We're not making enough hires. You need to send more resumes." Completely out of nowhere. I was like, whoa, hold on. Let me go do some data poll. Let me do some math and figure out what happened here. I'll come back to you. They said, "Okay." So I go pull all this data, and we had actually increased our submittals month over month. I did 3 months worth of data. We had actually sent more resumes every month. Our pass-through rates from phone screen to interview, all those steps had actually improved month over month, but we had a 50% offer decline rate because they were not paying, they were not willing to go high on compensation. And all of the people who had declined us had gone to another FANG company, either stayed at FANG because they got a counter offer or had accepted an offer at another FANG company. So I went back to them and said, "Resumes are not your problem. Here's the proof on a spreadsheet. So your engineering mind can read it. And the problem is that we're not converting enough people at the offer stage. So you have a choice. You can either change the way you're doing offers, pay more money. You can lower your expectations and hire people from, second tier companies and stay away from the FANG and your competitors, or you can live with a 50% decline rate. I don't care, but I'm telling you, this is maximum output for my team. This is the hiring you're going to get if we stay at this pace." And they said, "Okay, we'll stay at this pace. We'd rather hire less, but get the best people in their minds than hire more." I said, "Okay, that's, again, your decision. You get to decide as the VP, as the leadership, you get to decide how you want to build your team and with who. I'm just here to report the facts."
Okay,
and then partner with you the best I can.
okay, first of all, Steve, said, "Well, recruiting animals asking if there's anything wrong with him. Everybody knows there is." Yeah, I know there is too, but I
We've
mean in
known
this
the answer to that
specific,
for a long time.
in this specific case, okay. But first of all, when and neither of these people, Steve, have given me a case where they're
I knew he wasn't going to
one-to-one.
like your answer.
They're one-to-one. I liked her answer, and it says use data. She's always got. Last time, I watched
Always
an old
data.
video. She has a whiteboard. Okay, if you say something, she holds it out, right, to write everything you said down in numbers. Okay, so that was a good case. Use data. Okay, but once you throw this data in their face, and they have to come to a reasonable conclusion. They say, "Okay, yeah, we're going to stay where things are." they're not going to remember that they made that stupid decision later
You
on. They'll come
remind-
back
you-
with the
you
same
remind-
stupid complaints.
You remind them at every
That's why
update
we
meeting.
email and keep
Yes.
papers. You know, I love receipts, Animal.
I know
My
that you
phone
always
is full of
advise people keep a paper trail so you can throw it in their face. Is that going to
Damn
work for
right.
you? Is that
Well,
going to
per
work?
my
Hey,
last email,
stupid! Remember what you said last week? No, I don't see this stuff going over. You guys
this
are
is what
talking
we
so
agreed
tough.
on in
That's
this
what
It does.
email
It
dated
goes over
this
because
day.
at every meeting, at every intake meeting, even if it's the same damn job all over again,
Yeah.
same team, we do the exact same thing. Ask the same questions, find out if anything's changed on the team that would change the requirements for this specific position. And we're reminding, okay, but remember what we said 6 months ago was this is what we're focused on.
Yeah, I remember what you said 6 months ago, and I'm going to go for that instead of blaming you today. Steve Levy. Yeah, okay. Steve Levy. Then I want to go to Sasha to see if she's got any questions. I would, if Steve Levy, he's very muscular, okay? If a guy like him came into my office, which is different from I'm being in a meeting, and he started threatening me, I would be intimidated. And that's what I'm talking about. You guys are threatening these people.
Right.
You say,
We're
I am not going to
people.
work
We're
on your
not
jobs, and
threatening.
I'm going to
We're
go and talk to your
coaching.
boss about you. Steve Levy,
We're
have you?
coaching, we're consulting, we're advising, and we're partnering. If
I
that
want to
feels
hear a
threatening,
story
that's
about
a you problem.
one of you guys, or even David Mr. who's listening, and he's a corporate recruiter. I want to hear some one of you guys actually said, "Listen, Billy, I'm going to Steve or Betty over your head, and I'm going to tell her what happened here and how you are not being reasonable." Steve, have you ever done that?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
I want to hear Steve say, "Yes,
Michael, you
this
can
happened."
answer for me. The answer is it's not I went over your head. It's like we need to bring in the CEO to discuss this because something is awry here. And so on separate, separately, I'm a data person too. I have all the records for things. They go to the CEO, and this is what's happening. CEO asks questions of some of the CTO. And funny things then start becoming a little more aligned.
There's no friction between you and the CTO after?
I don't give a shit if there's friction. My job is not to give him a back rub and take warm showers with him.
Why is it a bad thing to have friction and everybody doesn't get along perfectly?
There is healthy friction.
It's okay.
I mean, because it spurs conversation. It creates questions. You can have an actual dialogue about it. It's very simple. So this doesn't align with what your leadership goals are. From the top, from your boss, CEO, VP, whoever it is, this is what we've been asked to do for you. Your expectations are not aligning with that. So let's talk through that. Should we go talk to them together?
Americans don't hold grudges, I guess. That's what you
It's
guys
not
are
a
telling
question,
me.
Michael. We're not holding grudges. What we're doing, and if there's a little friction, that's fine. But ultimately, our overriding goal should be the same. It's to hire the best people who'll produce the best results, and
But this
Sasha,
friction,
Sasha, do you got a question?
questioning.
No, Sasha is quiet. I want to give her a chance to ask a question.
I'm just listening. I'm enjoying this conversation.
Okay.
That friction, this questioning hones in on what you're trying to accomplish. So the questioning and sometimes aggressive questioning is a good thing because I wasn't right and it clarified. And we're closer to where we need to be as far as the type of talent we're supposed to be targeting.
Right.
Some moron who tells you he wants Michael Jordan, he doesn't sound reasonable enough to come to that conclusion.
No, but you do get people thinking like this, and they have to be steered out of that rut.
Amy, is that your new TikTok? Is that for the next TikTok?
This was actually one of my most favorite bosses from Microsoft told me this after I was crying in her office because the director yelled at me because I brought data and he didn't like it.
Okay, so that's
True
a story.
story.
You brought data, and the guy he yelled at you, and you
Because
started
he
crying.
did.
You had him.
And you
He was
dead to rights.
pissed.
Yeah, you had him
He
dead
was
to rights.
furious because what we were doing, this is for the e-commerce team, hire software engineers, what we were hiring. And he wanted me to come and sit with his engineers, his leaders, for like 8 hours a week or something, like 2-hour slots, multiple days a week or something, and just go through LinkedIn profiles, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And then they would say, yes, no, yes, no. And then I would have to go and find those people, try to convince them to talk to us. They did not want us to do real sourcing and recruiting. They wanted us to just sit there and show them profiles that they could say yes to, and then yell at me when I couldn't get that profile to talk to them.
That's not recruiting.
And I said, this is not working. Like, this is not sustainable. I'm not going to do this. This is not a good use of my time or my sourcing partner's time. And he said, well, I don't care. You're doing it because that's what I told you to do. And I said, no, I'm not. And then he called my boss and got me. Well, he didn't get me in trouble. He tried to get me in trouble.
Ooh, he's not that guy on LinkedIn.
And my boss
saying
is
bad
like,
things about you.
That's
I doubt it. It's been so many years.
No, he's the guy on
and
TikTok saying bad
hug
things
it out.
about her.
We did hug it out later. But this is what happened. I'll tell you the rest of the story. So I said, okay, Michelle, this is my boss, Michelle. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to meet him in the middle. I'll go to half of these meetings he's insisting I go to. And then the other half of the time, me and my sourcer, Paul, we're just going to really double down, work extra hours, whatever we got to do to actually get real pipeline, right? And so we do this for 2 months. I come back with data. This time I did a pie graph and a bar chart because I was like, here's the data.
I love pies and
here it is
bars.
again. So it was a little snarky on my part, but it felt good.
Look,
so, but what had happened, let me finish the story. So this is what happened. We have this, 2-3 months of data, whatever it was. And we showed them, okay, you guys looked at, X number of profiles. And then all of a sudden a massive drop. We were only able to convert, 2%. You didn't like any of the resumes that we got. We made 0 hires. On the other side, the actual sourcing activity that Paul and I did, you saw, 30 resumes, you interviewed 15 of them, and that's where our 6 hires came from. So where would you like us to spend our time? This is the result of what you wanted us to do. This is the result of what I told you we should do. Where would you like us to spend our time? And I shit you not, this director looks around the room and he looks at his leads. He goes, why are you expecting her here every day to sit in a room with you? Let her go recruit.
Okay, before we go on, I got two issues, okay? First of all, it's starting to trickle out that there is bitterness, okay? The guy, she said, went to her boss to snitch on her.
Yeah.
No. And
because you're being treated like a customer service type individual.
And wait
but
a second.
That was the very beginning. Once he got to know me, he really liked me. See, this is what y'all don't realize. I am so nice once you get to know me.
Wait a second, Steve.
Once I take you
Amy
back
and
behind
everybody's
the woodshed.
agreeing. Oh, that stuff with getting the managers to review their LinkedIn.
Look,
that's a waste
painful.
of time. But that is what all the people were begging for. They wanted to get access to the connections from the hiring manager. And wait a second, they had those, Steve. You must remember. You've been around a long time. It was in the New York Times. They had pizza lunches where they would get all the staff. They would give them Coke and pizza, and on a screen they would go through their LinkedIn. They would give them the password to go through. They would insist on going through their LinkedIn connections and review the people. And this was thought as this was a far-reaching, on the curve, avant-garde way of doing things. And Amy's saying they delivered it on a platter.
There's nothing wrong with that if it works. We've done those pizza parties for like referral drives, go mine your network, find people that you think you'd want to refer. So if it works, it can absolutely be one of the many tools in your toolbox here, but it was the only way they wanted to do recruiting. They did not want to consider people from any other, it was just, that was their one trick pony that they thought was going to get it done. And we were making 0 hires. We had to change something. It wasn't working.
And that's the data. You look at all your different sources of hires and, over a longer period of time, you can look at them over on a month-to-month basis. You're not going to see much movement. But
we should stop calling it data and just proof.
It is proof. It's exactly that.
Well, that's
numbers don't lie.
Look, our job is sometimes, it's a very negative profession, recruiting. a lot of no, 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 and an occasional yes. And as such, maybe we get a little jaded, we get a little rough around the edges, but ultimately, in the very end, we've collected all this data, presumably collected all this data, and if someone doesn't want to listen to it, then I'll tell you straight up, your obstinance is not going to keep me from doing my job.
Okay, but why? I got a question.
I will be nice.
Why was that
Michael,
LinkedIn review? Why was that not working for them? She had, just like you said, she had the data. This source of hire was not working.
It took time for a stubborn man to, be told. I'm sure this person didn't come to the conclusion themselves. I'm sure other people were smacking them around that you perhaps you sicked on them. I suspect, Amy, knowing you that well. But
I mean, look, I'm not saying that, this was why, but I will say about 6 months later, the guy was in an IC role. He was no longer leading a team.
There you go. Shit rolls downhill.
Yeah, I see. You put that up before. It must be one of your favorite things. No, but why didn't that work? Seeing their connections and letting them review the people right in front of you?
It wasn't their connections. It wasn't their connections. They literally would have me logged into LinkedIn Recruiter, run a Boolean search. They'd give me the keywords or whatever. We do the filtering, we do the searching, start going through, and then this is what they wanted us to do. Take ticky marks. We want to know how many profiles you looked at and how many profiles the manager said yes to. So I could look at 100 profiles. They said yes to maybe 15. That was data I was supposed to report back. It was the most ludicrous thing I'd ever heard of.
Sounds good to me. I don't understand what's wrong with it.
Here's why that approach is absurd. At its face value, we all know that people suck at writing resumes or profiles. We all know that. And so, the novice recruiter, quite frankly, has no interest in learning the underpinnings, learning the relationships. If this is mentioned, but that's not mentioned, that doesn't mean this is there or not there. So simply doing the tick mark approach, that's like doing online shopping at a supermarket and assuming you're going to get top quality because the person who's picking the groceries thinks the same way you do. That meat looks really good. I'm going to get Amy the best meat possible.
I don't understand it.
I also offered to them. I also said, hey, you like these profiles. They're not responding to me. Why don't you send an email? I'll help you write it. I'll write the copy for you. But if it comes from you, an engineering manager, it will have a little bit more credibility, right? It's not
there
the 112
people always want the managers to get involved.
They would not do it. That's what I'm saying. They would not do it.
Why not?
That's not their job.
No, but you were willing to write. All they had to do was send it. You were willing to write it for them.
I know. And guess what? 3 months in, they said, hey, would it be okay if we reach out to people? Will you help us? Absolutely. Here's your copy. And our response rate shot up. I
don't know how you can't be. You're stuck in that company with those hiring managers. I don't know how you don't blow your brains out if you tell them what's going to work and they absolutely say no. Okay. I have to stop. I have to do my ad for Michael G Cox and Richie Rich. But first to Steve, this is the famous, everybody knows him in our circles, Steve Levy. Do you have a website that you want to plug or anything you want to plug aside from whatever you're eating in your chin right now?
UncleSteve.com.
No, if Mar, you're an idiot. No, not right now. Everyone knows that. But okay. Part of becoming really good at this profession is knowing when to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
Knowing to say when is a when, and then give them reasons why it works. And I collect response rates on every message I send out. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. And again, granted, I'm focused. It helps being an engineer, so I have a little leg up on this. Nonetheless, we're still dealing with human beings who think we're still douchebags, if you remember SourceCon 2014. So it's still a slippery slope for all of us.
So you guys are taking it for granted they think you're douchebags and you don't have anywhere, you can't go further down, so you don't have nothing to lose.
Oh, trust me.
There's nothing to lose. It's only up from here.
But
here's the thing you have to keep in mind. They don't know what they don't know. So it's not my job to come in and beat them up or insult them or be rude to them. It's my job to come in and educate and partner and consult. And those that are open to consulting, those that are willing to listen to the recruiting expert who is also listening to the engineering expert, because I'm learning from them too, those are fantastic partnerships. It also does not hurt. And this is why I'm unrecruitable for the moment. Most of the hiring managers I work with, I brought to this company.
Yeah.
They were my candidates.
You,
so we started.
I'm never going to get to this ad, but I'll tell you why.
Because
Because this is what Amy does, everybody. These guys, they're still idiots. Okay. She brings in good people. They say, no, I don't want to spend that kind of money. And she has to say, remember when you were on the other side of that desk and what I did for you. Okay. And she throws it in their face. Okay. And
I just remind them gently that I don't make, they're like, we know, Amy doesn't make bad offers. That is the mantra in my office. Amy doesn't make bad offers, and they know it. And we have really good partnerships. I know you want this to be really adversarial, but it's just not. Like, we're friends.
I want it to be adversarial.
We're friends.
I keep hearing is bad things. You say, look, I want you to send this email. Oh no. And then you have to wait 3 months till they give in to reason.
Because I had to educate them through data why this is effective. Once they now know, oh yeah, this is effective. She knows what she's talking about. We'll
and this
listen
idiot
to
wants
why
to hire people who are good at baseball.
Amy, how long?
Why would they listen to me when I'm a stranger with no proven success with them? You have to build success and build data points and build that muscle. And then they'll be like, oh, you actually do know what you're talking about.
Can I do the ad for Michael G. Cox?
Now we can work together.
Hey, everybody.
You can try.
Okay, just let me get, it'll just take a minute, okay? I like to, so I can post an ad for them on the group. Okay. Hey, everybody. It's that time of year when Forbes magazine has its list of 100 top recruiters. Don't make me laugh. 100 top recruiters in America. And two of the people who are regulars on this show, Michael G. Cox, raise your hand, okay? And Richie Rich Rosen, who had to go to some important meeting, who knows what it was during the show. They are contenders. So I want you to go to coldcallrecruiter.com right away before the contest is over, and then register to vote. They'll send you an email, and you go there and you vote for them by their company names, okay? Michael G. Cox, you just have to put in ZAG with his crazy company, ZAG Works. And it's not even spelled like it should be, okay? But his name will come out, and you vote for the company. ZAG Works, and Cornerstone Search for Richie Rich Rosen. Michael G. Cox wants to break into the top 100. Richie Rich wants to break into the top 10. And why should you vote for these people? Because they help you. Look at Michael G. Cox told us today that he has to pour his heart out to some idiot who wants to hire someone who's good at baseball, okay? I mean, or who was a cheerleader or something like that, something completely irrelevant to the job. And he lets us know that that happened and how to handle situations like that. Thank you very much. Okay.
Learn from my pain.
Yeah, learn from his pain. Okay. But you know what? I have to beg you guys to get to the part of the pain. Okay. Yeah, there must be a fight in there somewhere. Oh, no fight. Okay. Who wants to suggest a topic before we're done? We're getting